Welcome back, crew, to Boats vs. Haulover, where man and machine take on Mother Nature, typically down at Haulover Inlet, but today we are visiting BOCA, and as you can tell from these images right here, it is gonna be a rough day, but let's see how our captains fare as they step in the ring and do battle with the inlet. And this is going to bring us to the first round of our contest, and the boats are gonna lead off strong with one of those old Haulover killers, a bayliner. Well, yeah, that's a little exaggeration, but still, the bayliner is gonna do its work to try and get out of Haulover, and this crew, oh my. I don't know what they got going on here or what Cap's thinking allowing this to happen. We've got multiple kids in the bow of this vessel without life jackets on, and one of the worst parts of this is more of a cabin cruiser style vessel. In other words, they're not down, protected in a bow. They're really just kind of sitting up top on fiberglass that is basically going to be slippery when wet. And this crew, they do have a bow rail to help protect them, but man, this is not a good idea whatsoever. I mean, especially with the little one. I mean, none of them should be up there without a life jacket. The reality is, and it doesn't matter how calm or how rough the day is, you never know how things are going to go when you start working your way out of the inlet. Kind of like this crew really determines here. As we're about to see, this crew's made it to this point, but Mom's already decided, heck, I've had enough, and I'm moving back, because even at those slow speeds, it's just not a comfortable ride up front. But right here, she's holding the baby with one arm, holding the glass with another, and man, anything could go wrong here. If she winds up slipping and falls overboard, this could just be an absolutely horrific scene. Unfortunately for this crew, we only got a few rules on BVH. If you stuff the bow, you take an automatic L, and if you have kids in the bow of the boat, that's an automatic L as well. So as we know, this crew takes a loss for the boats here in the first round. But this time, here in the second round, the boats are going to try and make a comeback as they're actually going to send a real Haulover killer into the ring. Even though we're at BOCA, it's going to be a Freeman, and here we go. Our crew is working their way toward the mouth of BOCA Inlet, throttles down, letting the boat do the work. Now, they do have a pretty good following sea, but it is a little bit easier ride in a following sea than it is a head sea, so I got to imagine as long as they keep on the throttle, keep this boat up on plane, things should go their way. And as we can see here, it looks like they're not going to have any issues, even with the rough conditions today, making their way back into BOCA, and this crew is easily going to take a win for the boats here in the second round. And this, of course, will move us to the third round of our contest, and we are now tied at 1 apiece. And here in the third round, the boats are going to toss a custom craft in the ring to try and see if it can go ahead and take the edge over BOCA Inlet. But this is a pretty shallow freeboard boat for a day like today. BOCA's kind of firing. Going to be interesting to see how date night works on this boat as this crew starts to work its way out of the inlet. Now, Cap's got this one going out at an idle. Really needs to do something to get that bow up. Other than that, they're going to wind up stuffing it because the waves, they're pounding pretty solid today. Cap's not really paying attention. He's looking down, though. I'm not sure if he's texting or what he's looking at, but he's definitely not focused on the objective of trying to get this vessel out of the inlet safely. I'm not sure personally myself if I would have took this boat out of BOCA Inlet on a day like today, but let me know in the comments if you would have. And right there it is. They come out slow. Cap doesn't have any throttle behind it, low freeboard, and it equals an absolute epic stuffing. And the bad news for him is, I mean, he at least had a windshield, his girl didn't, so she's going to be absolutely soaked, which means she's probably not going to be very happy. And unfortunately for this crew, they're going to wind up taking a loss for the boats here in the third round, and that's going to give BOCA Inlet a 2-1 edge, but we're going to try and give this crew a little bit of redemption, and we've done this in the past, but here we go, same boat, coming back in the inlet with a heavy following sea. Now, it's much easier coming back if you're taking it easy. Now, when I say that, I don't want to sugarcoat it, because often in the comments I see people say, oh man, that boat handled it so well, and somebody will reply back, well, that's because they had a following sea. And it is partially correct. I've done plenty of long offshore runs where we were coming back with a heavy following sea, a sea state maybe of 4 to 5 foot, and it definitely is a much softer ride coming back toward port when you've got a 4 to 5 foot following sea than when you've got a 4 to 5 foot head sea. The big trick to this is, though, is once you get closer to port and those waves start to steepen up, especially as you're entering an inlet, you can see things like this, where you get stuck with a wave catching up to you from behind, and the next thing you know, you're surfing that wave, and it becomes a dangerous situation. So don't think just because you're coming into port and you've got a following sea, it's going to be a nice, easy, soft ride. That's just not the case. Now, fortunately, in this situation, our crew gets redemption, though. They don't have a bad ride in, and they wind up taking a win in the fourth round, and that's going to bring us to a 2-2 tie as we head into the fifth and final round of our contest. And here, this is going to be a new one for us. We're going to have a three-peat. Our crew's 1-1 right now. Let's see if they can actually take the win over BOCA, or if they're going to wind up taking a loss as they start going back out the inlet again. So Cap's cruising in. At least this time he's hugging the jetty to try and give it an advantage, and no! They wind up stuffing it again, and our crew winds up taking a loss here as they pull the BOCA U-turn, and BOCA will take the win. Thanks for watching, crew. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Boats vs. Haulover. If you did, please check out our other content. We have Wavy Boats, who does a bunch of great things down at the inlets. My channel, Broncos Guru, does some great comedy boating videos there as well. And of course, we've got the Miami Boat Ramps channel that focuses on all the hilarity that happens at the boat ramps in South Florida. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.